Good morning, all. Welcome back to another episode of BlockHash Exploring the Blockchain, episode 310. Today, we have the author of the Cryptocurrency Quickstart Guide, Dr. Jonathan Reichental, here on the show to talk more about it, talk about crypto, talk about getting started in crypto and everything that kind of falls into that category. Jonathan, welcome, man. Pleasure to have you.
Hey, Brandon. Good to join you from New Zealand, the capital of Wellington here. I'm in my hotel room with a little mock-up studio here for you guys. So it's great to spend a bit of time with you.
Jonathan's out and about right now, bouncing around and traveling, doing the old MacGyver makeshift setup from the hotel room. I think we've all been there at one point or another with these virtual calls and virtual meetings and podcasts we do these days. From Germany, right? And you were in Dubai recently. Now you're in New Zealand. So you've been around quite a bit.
I do. I get to travel all over the world. I'm based in San Francisco, actually. And this is you're catching me in the starting of a very long trip. I'll be here in New Zealand for over a month. I'm a visiting scholar at the Victoria University of Wellington, and then my journey will take me up to Singapore, where I'll spend a bit of time there. I work with the government there. Then I'll head into Europe, into Eastern Europe, spending some time in Hungary. Then back
My
to
goodness.
the US for a little while before I head back. In fact, to London and to Europe again.
Wow, you bounced around a lot, huh? What keeps you moving around so much?
Well, part of it is my own interest. Part of it is my own, love of being out in the field, if you like. I always struggled a little bit with, an office job. I mean, I loved the jobs I've had and the organizations I've worked for, from government to private sector to academia. But there's a part of me which gets a little restless. I actually like to be on the road and be with people and to observe things and be in the action. There's only so much satisfaction I get, with telephone calls and email and Zooms. I like to be hands-on in the field. So that's what gets me out. I have a lot of different clients and different things I do. Like here in New Zealand, I'm working with the university. I'm doing some very traditional lecturing for undergraduates and graduates. I'm doing some public talks, working a little bit with the local government, and hope to even interact a little bit with the federal government here. And that means, some advice, some advisory work, and some, maybe assessment of some work they're doing. Very progressive here in New Zealand. In Singapore, I'm an advisor to the Prime Minister's office on the future of Singapore. So I have a responsibility there as part of an advisory group. So there's lots of different things. The theme is a lot about education, and it's about emerging technologies. It's about strategy, from very much through the lens of technology, and that's how I get pulled in. And so that's it. I could probably even do more, but I have to kind of manage it to some degree, right?
Absolutely. That's really cool. Are you mostly advising and educating, here in New Zealand and Singapore on crypto or emerging tech more broadly, or what does that kind of look like?
Yeah, no, a lot more broadly. One of my core areas is the future of cities. So that's what, I'm quite known for. People who are familiar with my work will know that I've spent a long time helping with city leaders and all sorts of stakeholders in the urban movement to try to figure out, first of all, how do we solve problems completely differently using technology, and no specific tech, but everything from data to the Internet of Things, of course, blockchains in there, artificial intelligence now because it's about the hottest thing. So yeah, no, there's a lot of tech that relates to cities, and then just because of my background as an IT leader in different industries, but also as a head of technology innovation for a professional services firm a few years ago, I'm able to work with and talk with all types of industry. And on any given day, I might be advising an energy company or a telecom company or a luxury brand. Every business today is a technology business, every business. And that's at the heart. And it's, technology runs a business, it's at the core of supporting operations and then delivering to the marketplace. But technology is also about competitive advantage, and that's hard. When everybody has access to the same tech, you got to be quite skilled and deliberate in how you innovate and create new value using new technologies and new solutions to service your clients and to grow your market. So yeah, no, I got a pretty broad portfolio ranging again. Blockchain is clearly in there, crypto's in there, but Internet of Things is strong, AI is strong, cybersecurity is strong, data in general. I just had a new book come out on data governance for dummies. I just published that in December. It's doing really well. Metaverse comes up, and autonomous vehicles and the future of energy, for example. So pretty broad portfolio of things that I'm passionate about personally, but also love helping my clients with.
Which of these technologies are you the most passionate about, you think? I mean, we're kind of living in a golden age of tech right now, where you got everything from blockchain to AI to smart cities and IoT to cybersecurity, like you mentioned. There's so many different areas. Is there one in particular that's maybe more exciting to you?
We do live in this remarkable time, and I thought it was interesting 10 years ago, but wow, it's off the charts now. In some ways, I've kind of two different ways of answering this question. I try to look at solutions more than anything. We tend to get a little obsessed with a type of tech, but a type of tech doesn't matter to a energy company. What an energy company is interested in is, for example, supporting the migration to renewables, or to remain competitive. In a world where they have disruptions that they didn't anticipate, or a telecom company that has been successful for a long time with traditional telecom services like mobile connectivity and landlines, and internet connectivity, and all of that is becoming commodity. It's been driven to sort of almost to zero, and so they're very interested in how can they reinvent themselves and be relevant. So I tend to think of tech from the solutions perspective. What can we deliver differently? When I think of cities, for example, I'm not talking about a tech. I'm talking about how can we make our roads safer, or how can we make it? What can we do in our cities that helps there be less bicycle accidents for kids, when more and more people are riding bicycles in our urban environments? So I'm really, that's the lens by which I look at things. And there's nothing better than a juicy problem to try to solve, and to bring to bear skills and tech and new ideas, and just, the bringing to bear whatever's necessary to get the job done. That's how I look at things. I do think, in terms of sort of being more, in the spirit of your question, no doubt today I'm most blown away by artificial intelligence and its potential. But again, it's like, what's fascinating is if you apply AI to transportation, and you get autonomous vehicles, that changes our cities. That changes how we design our cities, which is the central human experience of the 21st century. So it's not just AI alone, but it's what it actually translates to ultimately that is the most fascinating to me. And my final thought would be, it's the surprises along the way. We kind of enter into a field, with a new series of mature tech. We apply them in a context, and suddenly you have a totally different outcome than you could ever anticipate. And while I do my best as a somewhat of a futurist, I guess, I don't really use that term often, but for simplicity, it's useful, kind of trying to predict where things are going. And in reality, what happens is they go in a completely different direction than anyone anticipated. And that's the biggest surprise of all.
Yeah, AI is very fascinating. Starting off this year alone has, I really do think 2023 is going to be like the year of consumer-based AI, like we saw with ChatGPT, and it's not going to be, the last thing to come out. Like there's every other company's working on it, whether it's Google or Microsoft, Nvidia, Meta, you name it.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see how kind of that shapes up, but also the potential drawbacks, I think, of unleashing a technology like this onto the public and maybe potential repercussions of that, like in the workforce and job displacement, plagiarism. There's a lot of things cropping up now where it's like everyone's trying to implement it into their job or into their business, but not enough people are saying, hold on a second, is what it's saying correct? Is what it's saying, being done properly? Should this, be a consumer-based technology immediately, even though it's been around for like 2 decades at this point and has been fine-tuned and altered? What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you feel like some of these technologies like AI, for example, if we just focus on that, maybe it's innovating too quickly, maybe it's getting pushed out to market too fast? Do you think there's going to be some drawbacks to that, or some repercussions, or what are your thoughts?
Well, those are all good questions you ask. The reality is, in a way, they don't matter because the train has left the station. This is unleashed. Nobody's regulating it. Nobody's holding it back. Innovation is going to drive, and the open marketplace is going to drive all the new tech and new ideas that emerge in the days and months ahead. And it's going to happen fast. I think of generative AI, the broader category, as maybe one of those periods in history that changed the trajectory of humanity. The same way as steam did, or electricity, or the internet, and other big moments in the thousands of years of modern humanity. It does feel like this is a very important point, and we will probably, in all likelihood, given our history, move faster than policy and regulation can keep up with. So the damage will be done, well before we actually respond, particularly given the speed of adoption here. Reaching 100 million users in just literally in a few weeks, and growing rapidly. And the thing about tech is, you make a leap like this, and all we can do now is build on that leap. There's no sort of like regression. We don't go back and sort of like, have to redo anything. Once you've got to a certain point in tech, all you're doing now is building on it. And, AI is going to build better AI. That's going to be the most phenomenal part of this. So the rate at which this improves is going to increase now. So what do I think about all this? I think the impacts will be much greater than anyone's thinking about. So, you mentioned things like plagiarism. I'm a professor. I think about ChatGPT as a, something now I have to deal with. If all my students are going to use, ChatGPT to answer my essay questions and tests, or in home assignments, it's worthless. It's not a learning tool. It's, that's not a learning experience anymore. It's just a task. So we're going to have to maybe do exams differently, or test people's skills differently. But that's such a small part of this, to be honest with you. There will be transformational components. Can you imagine, for example, within 24 to 36 months, you'll just come up with sort of 2 or 3 sentences that describes a movie with the characters you want and the actors you want, and a system will generate a 2-hour movie with a plot line for you. So we go from, movies for everybody to movies for one. Of course, then you can share them. And okay, so what am I saying? I'm saying that this has the potential to completely redefine and uproot the entire entertainment industry. And how big is that? Yeah, that's hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. And many millions of jobs, and the impact will be vast. That's just one thing. But look, I'm also an optimist. So the question is, what does it enable? Well, it's going to enable and create completely new jobs that you and I couldn't even think of the titles for right now, right? There's going to be completely new opportunities for humans. I think, when I think of AI, I also think of not artificial intelligence, but augmented intelligence. I like to think that, uh, we can, and we are, and have been, augmenting our experiences as humans with tools. Like, search at the end of the day, is sort of an AI tool, but we don't think of it like that. We think of, it's easier for Google to look up something than it is for us to go to a library, right? It augments us. AI will drive cars for us because we're very bad at driving cars, and it's better to have the computers drive the cars. They're safer, right? And maybe it,
Right.
it helps towards, with our congestion issues. So look, I think my bottom line on this is, however you're thinking about Chat GPT, you're thinking too small.
Yeah, I don't think we can fully comprehend what it'll be able to do for us in the near future, because it's just, scratching the surface, and already it's blowing our minds. And I use it for a lot of stuff too. It really helps me with productivity and workflow, and prepping out episodes or creating content. It's a really helpful tool. It's just going to be interesting to see how that continues to evolve, and how we use it or abuse it, or apply it to our everyday life.
Yeah.
So that'll be kind of exciting to see pan out. And you do a lot of writings too. So you got some books. One of them's a quick start guide for crypto. You said you had one on data for dummies or something like that too, right?
Yeah, in December, I released Data Governance for Dummies, part of the famous Dummy series, the most popular reference series ever produced, over 250 million books. So I'm happy to be part of that. I also wrote Smart Cities for Dummies, which continues to be a bestseller in that category. The Data Governance book is doing well, but I know we want to talk about my brand new book, which will be out around about the time that this podcast is published, and it's called Cryptocurrency Quick Start Guide. It's available on Amazon and online everywhere, electronic and physical, and there'll be an audio version soon too. And what this is this is an educational book. It's not an advocacy book. I don't come to it from the perspective of someone who says you need to be involved, and you need to buy crypto, and you need to invest and trade and all. I come to the table saying, there's a lot of us who want to know more, want to understand, first of all, how does it work, what is it, how does it have value, and then you want to understand all the different parts of it, everything from Bitcoin to Ethereum to altcoins, across the tokens and NFTs and DeFi and more. What are all those things? And I write about them in a way that is easy to understand. There was a time when I was learning this stuff, and I wasn't particularly happy with the content online or the books that were available. A little bit too techy, a little bit too jargonish. I don't know if that's a word actually, but a bit heavy on the jargon. So I wanted to write the 400-page book that kind of gives you everything you need, but makes it accessible. And sort of just to kind of also bring a little bit more context to, why did I write this book now? Well, I was fortunate enough to be asked to write videos for LinkedIn Learning, the learning arm of LinkedIn that's now part of Microsoft. I've been doing it now for about 8 or 9 years, I think. And I wrote a few courses on blockchain and on crypto, blockchain basics, blockchain beyond the basics, and some courses on NFTs. And I was really humbled by the fact that over 1 million people took these courses, took these videos, and that's really gratifying. And the feedback I've received was really wonderful and supportive. So I thought, let's build on that. Let's make sure the education on this topic is solid and accessible, so that more people can understand it and make their own informed decisions about what they want to do, whether it's blockchain or in this case a little bit more focused on the cryptocurrency ecosystem.
Nice. Yeah. So this is designed more or less for someone that's new to crypto that wants to get kind of like an educational understanding of what all these different elements are and, how they kind of fit together to make this industry, right?
I think that's right. I don't want to exclude anybody, and as in, if you're kind of intermediate level, and you
Mhm.
want to fill in some gaps, you want to understand the different consensus mechanisms, you want to understand the pros and cons of different altcoins, or maybe you just don't get NFTs. Even intermediate level people will probably benefit. If you're pretty good, if you're an expert at blockchain and crypto, probably not the right book. So
Mhm.
I am saying, at the top level, the expert level, this is probably not for you. But the vast majority of people are either beginner, curious, or intermediate, and those are really my target. The numbers are pretty impressive right now. We're looking at about 425 million people in the world, have own some uh, form of crypto.
Mhm.
They may or may not fully understand it, and more want to get involved. And so I think that the audience is massive for new education, good quality education on this topic.
Yeah, I think for the amount of people that actually own some, portion of crypto out there, whether it's like a dollar's worth and they forgot about it because they bought it once, or they actually have some kind of investment, or they use it and spend it every day somehow. Yeah, it's surprising that that many people have it across the world thus far, and it's only been around for like a decade more or less, which is really cool. But it's also the future in a lot of ways, right? I mean, this is the future of what money's going to be. And beyond cryptocurrency, blockchain can touch almost every major industry and solve so many different problems with middlemen and intermediaries and supply chain and verification, obfuscation, whatever it may be.
Hmm.
Um,
Well,
so,
this is possibly where you
mhm,
and I may diverge a little bit. I haven't come to the conclusion yet that this is the future of money. What I have seen in my own research is this is an extraordinary technology, and the emergence of cryptocurrency um, I've described it as sort of like um, a a kind of technical elegance. It's simple, but it's powerful. And as you point out, we're just over a little over 10 years into this, and it's already made an impact. Whether in my conclusion of the book, I say, look, there's a lot of people who are just don't get it. A lot of people are totally against. They're really, really angry or for some reason about
mhm,
crypto, perhaps. But then you've got a heck of a lot of people who are supporters and advocates. So there's people on both sides. No, so my conclusion is, no matter what side you're on, this has been fascinating, and it'll be even more fascinating to see where it goes. So I don't know yet, is my answer to that
mhm.
comment. I don't know if this is the future of money. I do feel that certainly blockchain is going to be around. That seems to be a sort of a back end technology that has some very neat uh, possibilities for providing solutions. Crypto is a function of blockchain. I feel like a application of it is wonderfully compelling, and but I've yet to see and be convinced that it's the future, but it could be. So I'm very open minded about it.
Yeah, let's dive into that a bit more. I'm curious what you think maybe the future of money will look like. I mean, you got one half the world, um, in support of crypto and a decentralized type of digital finance, which we have with Bitcoin and Ethereum and every other crypto out there. And then you have the other half of the table that wants to create some kind of centralized version of it, like a CBDC, for example, or a state-backed sovereign currency or digital version of fiat. And they're pushing very hard for that pretty broadly and globally. That could potentially be the direction things go, and maybe it will be. But what do you think the future of money looks like? Is it something
Yeah.
in one of these two directions? Is it something completely different in your minds? What are your thoughts?
No, thanks for that. Well, look, I'm in New Zealand right now, a small country, successful economy, successful democracy. They don't really use cash here anymore. This is very much, a card. based or app based. Everything is sort of tap your card when you're buying things. People don't carry cash really. There are a lot of stores that I passed walking around the downtown area that there's signs that say outside they're cashless. So I think we're moving increasingly rapidly all around the world to societies without physical cash. So like the notes and coins, I think those are they've been on a sort of a trend out, but I think that's going to accelerate, and some countries it's going to be very, very unusual and rare to see people with actual notes and coins. I do think that central bank digital currencies, so CBDCs, are coming. I don't think there's any doubt about that, and in a way, that's kind of just an extension of what I just said, sort of the cashless society. CBDCs are not creating a new type of money or anything. They're creating a digital form of fiat currency. And the reality is, if you look at your bank account online, no matter how much you have, if you have a little or a lot, or whatever you have, that's not cash that's sitting in notes in a safe somewhere. It's only on a computer. Most of the world's money is digital today, right? It doesn't exist in any form. And this might shock and surprise some people. Maybe not your listeners, because your listeners tend to be, much more up to date and informed about this topic. Right. So I do see CBDCs becoming mainstream and probably the dominant form of currency within 10 years for most economies in the world. Now, the question is, what about cryptos? Crypto is different, right? It's not fiat currency. It's exactly what fiat currency is not, right? A lot more speculative. I think a lot more, a lot of questions to be answered. I mean, the big part to me that has to happen, and I pinch myself a little bit as I say this, is we do have to have regulation. I mean, although it kind of goes against the spirit, of sort of there's a whole, there's a whole part of crypto that's about freedom and about independence and kind of separation from government. All that stuff I get, and that's really important. But it could, living in that space, it could remain a niche and not move to being more broadly adopted in the economy. So it feels to me that while regulation already exists, it's going to pick up pace. And for example, in the United States, I think we're going to see much more robust crypto regulation. I think the other part, in order for crypto to become a legitimate currency, it can't fluctuate the way it's fluctuating. That just makes it impossible to use. I mean, that's not usable. What makes sterling and the euro and the yen and the dollar work is that tomorrow when you wake up, they're kind of the same value, maybe moving tiny directions either way, and over a long period of time they change. But there's this predictability and sort of basically you have comfort that your money's still worth what it's worth in a week or a month from now generally. Crypto doesn't have that, and I think that's a significant showstopper. People will definitely use crypto as an investment, and they'll do their hodling and hold on to it, and they'll trade it and do all those things to make money. That's crypto as an investment asset, I think will continue. But crypto as a currency, that's the big question. Final point is, today Bitcoin, by far is the most important of the cryptos. There's, I haven't looked for a couple of weeks, but a few weeks ago, there were well over 20,000 cryptocurrencies, and Bitcoin was 40% of the market. Ethereum was about 20%. So just two cryptos are 60% of the entire marketplace, even though there's another 20,000 others. What I think might happen is a new crypto might emerge that surprises us. I mean, this is going back to one of my earlier points in our chat today, that the future is often surprising. That we think, Bitcoin is going to be the global currency, or Ethereum, when there's probably maybe you're ready, a small team working on a cool new crypto that's going to take the world by storm, or maybe it's still to happen. There's a group will get together, a year or two from now, or whenever it happens, you know what I mean? And so it may be that, Bitcoin is MySpace, and the actual crypto that becomes a reliable global currency is, the Facebook of crypto.
Right. There's so many questions I think that crop up here with this conversation we're having. I concur with you and I agree with the regulations. I think that's something that's vitally important for this industry if it's actually going to become an industry that has some kind of legs to run forward. There's billions and billions of dollars on the sideline all over the world, and some of the wealthiest hedge funds and sovereign wealth and, royal families and oil and at the government level just sitting there. That goes into a lot of industries that doesn't go into this one because there's no way to formally regulate it. And up to about a month and a half ago, banks were given for the first time ever the right to hold up to 1.5% to 2% on their balance sheet in crypto. So we're just kind of getting started, I think, in my own personal opinion, finding out what direction this officially goes, because crypto's weird. It's not big enough to be one of the most important industries in the world, but it is big enough to say that it's one of the top Fortune 500 companies in the world. It's like in this weird space right now where either it's going to settle and it's not going to amount to much more other than an investment type space, or it's going to do something incredibly tremendous at some point, given the right guidance and people stepping in. And final point, what's interesting about Bitcoin is it has like this symbolic value. And also, in my opinion, it's like the first time I think in history that we've had something that's like a financial protest almost, or like a individualistic protest against whether it's centralization or government or the banks or whatever you want to look at. I think people have been frustrated for so long. They finally have some way out that can't be touched. And it's almost like the perfect story, right? The founder is anonymous and no one knows who he is. The network is super simple, but has never been down, has never been hacked, is truly globalized in so many ways, and anyone can use it. It's fair and it's equal and equitable. And will that turn into something great in the future? That's, I think, the biggest question. And will that continue to pull this space, or are we going to divulge and emerge as an industry? So it's very fun times. It's exciting to live in today's world where that's happening, where you have that divergence.
Yeah. No, some great points you made. I think the key one there was we're so early. There's we have such high expectations for massive change in such a little amount of time, and yet we're only 15 years or so now into this. Now that I do the math, but I think that's a key part of it. But I also like the second part, or another part of what you said, which is, we're lucky to experience this, and look, people have got hurt from crypto. Part of it is, their own risk taking, and people have to take responsibility for that. But there's a lot of folks who, their exchange was hacked or something, and they lost some crypto. Maybe they saw they unfortunately got hurt in that way too. But I think overall, on balance, there's an awful lot of people who are sort of not only against it, but sort of outright angry about crypto and blockchain.
Yeah.
I'm not highly that doesn't.
There's a lot of those people too.
There's a lot of people. I'm not sure why that is. Rather than you can be opposed to it, or actually. I mean, look, I've been doing tech for almost 30 years, so I've seen all types of new tech emerge, and lots of technology actually fail. It just didn't amount to anything. I've seen a lot succeed too. So you could be against it. You can say this tech has no, basis, or I just don't see the market for this tech, or it just won't be adopted. But to be angry at a tech is very unusual, and it just shows you the degree to which this is a topic that people are really passionate about on both sides.
Yeah, there's always going to be those people. And you mentioned earlier in the show something very important too, and that's, innovation is something that's going to continue no matter what. I mean, you're not going to stop it. And I don't know how many times we've seen it happen in history. Before we learned that lesson, whatever crypto becomes, it's not going to stop evolving. Same thing with blockchain, same thing with AI, same thing with every other technology out there. It's going to keep progressing. Fun story we can wrap up on is when the automobile first came out, the horseshoe business was huge in the United States, and they did everything possible to completely smear the Ford Motor Company, to smear the auto industry, the ability to build roads, to adapt, not use horses anymore. And within a decade, the horsing shoe business, which is one of the largest in the US, was completely evaporated, just gone, because the car was just a better means of transportation. Same thing happened with electrical lines. Same thing happened with TV and radio. The list goes on and on and on. And now we're at a point where it's happening again. It's just in a different industry and in a different type of level and digitally. Even with the internet, I mean, I've seen a billion memes on like email and people, saying email was going to fail. The internet was just a fad. And now it's the basis of society today. Mm-hmm. So again, we've touched on it a couple of times, but such a cool point in time to live in where we're seeing this transition and we're seeing these things happen. And it's very exciting. And it must be really cool for you to, educate people on this stuff and talk about it and kind of be on the front lines of understanding it. That's, very cool, I think, career to be in and to kind of have that insight.
Yeah. I love your points, and clearly, your position is very clear. How you think about this. As an educator, it's very gratifying, and people who teach like myself, all sorts of audiences at every level, all over the world. There's just a joy in that moment when a person gets something. They're struggling, and then you say something or you give an example that finally it helps them click, right?
Right.
It's funny. I'll just tell you maybe my last story on this related to education. So I'm a professor at a number of universities, and I do teach a blockchain and crypto course at an undergraduate level class. And a lot of the students come in either already having traded crypto and knowing a little bit about it. That's really impressive already. And we go through 8 or 12 weeks of the semester, and it turned out we're coming towards the end of the semester, and I'm asking, are you all comfortable with proof of work? Do you understand the consensus mechanism in Bitcoin? And there's sort of like hesitant nods, like yes, we kind of get it. And upon a little bit of testing, it turns out they didn't get it. And I said, look, I am going to spend the next several hours of this one of these last classes just going into this, and we're going to go over and over it again till you get it, because I can't have you graduating my class without understanding proof of work. And we worked hard, and I made sure that every student understood the basis of how that works. And once they did, and they then I asked, you get it now? Can I feel that I've been successful as a teacher? And there was a good warm sort of affirmation of that. And I said, well, great, that is good for all of us. That's a win-win, that you conclude the class knowing that I couldn't have that on my conscience that you didn't understand that. So yeah, great role to be in.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up, where can people find you online? Where can they find your book? Where do you want to direct them?
Well, I'm pretty easy to find, fortunately. That's just the nature of the beast these days. You can. I'm pretty active on Twitter, actually, so you can see my handle there on the screen. Or if you're listening to this, it's just my last name, @Reichental, REICHENTAL. Pretty active on Instagram, particularly around my travels. So if you want to see exotic places, and I do a lot of photography in the different cities and countries I go to, so that's a good place. LinkedIn, that's an easy one. Just look for me on my full name, Jonathan Reichental. And then finally, I have my own website, one sort of a one-stop shop, which is www.reichental.com. So very easy for people to go there and find all my social media links, a lot of my articles, a ton of videos, and it's all free, by the way. I've just huge amount of content that anyone can consume for free. Of course, my books, you can get all my books on Amazon or any online bookstore, and in many, many small little physical bookstores in your town too. So please do look out for those as well.
Awesome. Are you on TikTok? We got to get you on TikTok doing some videos, educating.
I might have an account there, but I've done nothing with it. No, I'm not active on TikTok.
I feel like everything these days is about short form content. It's like the attention span of the individual just keeps shrinking every year.
Well, we've been talking for about 40 minutes, so we're not in alignment with the demand, right?
I know. So that's going to mean 4 or 5 separate videos, all broken down, and then there's going to be like 30 videos of short form.
Hey, whatever works. Yeah, go for
exactly. Anyways, Jonathan, thank you for taking the time. Really appreciate it. It's been a super fun conversation. Learned a lot from you. Thank you for sharing everything that you're doing, what you're working on, and I think people will take a lot of value out of this.
Thank you, Brandon. I'm glad you're doing this too, and what a pleasure to be on your show. So thanks for the privilege.
The pleasure's all mine. Take care, man. We'll talk soon. Have a good time.